live and subsequent broadcast available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with the Council's published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council's established meetings protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. And with that, I'll move to Callum to get apologies and declarations of interest and roll call.
Convener, we have apologies from Councillor Daisley to be substituted by Councillor Armstrong. I'll move to a roll call. The following councillors please indicate if they're present at the meeting. Councillor Armstrong.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Brooks.
In chamber.
Councillor Cassidy.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Clockerty.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Crowther.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Curley.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Hillier.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor McCormick.
Present remotely.
Provost Mackenzie.
In the chamber.
Councillor Nelson.
In chamber.
Councillor Quinn.
Present remotely.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank Councillor Wilson for indicating that Michael is not present at the meeting today. Michael has indeed got COVID, so therefore is attending remotely, and I've taken over as the chair for the meeting. We've obviously got two items on the agenda today. Agenda item number 2 is the first one regarding implementation of national strategy for 20 miles an hour. I'm going to pass you over to Eddie. Just before I pass it over to Eddie, I think it's important to say how no matter how the discussion goes, all elected members do realise the amount of work that Eddie and his team has put into this. So no matter what the debate goes like, I'd just like to make sure that we thank Eddie and his team for all the hard work they've put into this. And I'll invite him to present the report.
Thanks, Mayor. The report provides the committee with the current position regarding the ongoing engagement with Transport Scotland on the commitment from the Scottish Government to implement the national strategy for 20 mile per hour speed limits. There was a members' briefing in March ahead of the previous update report to this committee in that month, and a further members' briefing last week, which provided more detail, including maps of the proposals across the Inverclyde road network. The main driver of the strategy is improved road safety. And the report notes the road casualty statistics and the fact that lower speeds reduce the likelihood and severity of collisions, especially for vulnerable road users like pedestrians and cyclists. The report also notes the outcome of a Napier University study which assessed the effectiveness of Scottish Borders implementation, who were the first Scottish authority to roll out widespread 20 mile per hour speed limits. There's a link within the report to that study which concluded that a positive change in driver behaviour and the average speed reduction continued well after the beginning of the trial, with average speed still well below previous levels 8 months after the start of the trial. It's also important to note that the maps included in the appendix reflect an iterative process which has involved consultation with the various stakeholders identified in 6.2, with additional feedback from elected members and officer review, to ensure that as far as possible the proposal strike a balance between the direct application of the assessment criteria and the application of local knowledge, which should remain at 30 miles per hour to maintain the effective operation of arterial routes across Inverclyde. The March Committee noted and agreed the principles of 20 mile per hour speed limits and the roads identified during the previous assessments. The report today asks the committee to provide a decision on the implementation of the national strategy based on the reassessed position and the plans included as Appendix 1. I'd ask that the committee approve the recommendations and I'm happy to answer any.
Thank you, Eddie. Before I open up to questions, just to say there's no really any recommendations in the paper, but it would be my intention to move a recommendation at bullet point number 4. So with that, I'll open up to questions for whoever has any questions. I've got Graham first of all. Graham, you're first. I'll let you commit first of all. Graham.
Thanks very much, Navina. I think the Chamber will agree that road safety is the challenge that we have before us, and no one wants to see road safety deteriorate. Over many years, we've had improvements in motor vehicles, their ability to brake, road surfaces and tyres, and road safety has improved dramatically over the years, but it's never a conclusion. We want to continue to improve road safety to allow vulnerable members and everyone, all road users, to ensure they are safe on the road. My challenge or my fear is the proposed reports today does not include and does not move forward to allow us to have the appropriate road safety that we could have if we could use some of this money differently. They obviously understand that there's ring fence money coming from Scottish Government, which we don't have control over. It's a take it or leave it option. But there is other money available potentially if the proposals that are before us in item agenda number 1 to go ahead. So my fear is that putting up 20 million speed limit signs will not improve road safety, as it would be implemented, it would be enforced by road traffic officers or any officers of the police, and they're the only ones that can actually do it. We obviously have options of speed cameras, but again, that's not in the gift of every council. So the two measures to enforce speed limits are not in our gift. So let's put that aside for the moment. So I would like to move a motion, convener. Was previously circulated, but there's a number of amendments.
Graham, can I ask that we have the questions first? If I've already indicated that it's my intention to move a motion at the end, can we ask that we have the questions first and then we'll do the motions and amendments after?
That is your gift. I would like to move a motion.
Okay.
And I'd like to move a motion, though previously circulated. I've given fresh copies to the clerk, and there's an e-copy for those who are online. And it was obviously circulated. There's 2 pages, obviously, for information, but the basis of the motions are opposed to the 20 speed limits. Oppose the process of implementing the 20 speed limits on the 1,021 roads identified during March 2023 assessment and subsequent amendments, and acknowledge that there has been amendments even since the latest briefing. There's been another 9 roads, I think. Some have been brought down to 20, some have been up to 30. There has been changes, so I acknowledge those changes. Acknowledge the funding. We do want to thank the Scottish Government for the allocation of 478,000 intended to implement the 20 speed limits. Request the funding be redirected. Ask the Scottish Government to redirect the funding to support Scottish Fire and Rescue, which will have a major impact in RTCs. Obviously, it's not just police officers and ambulances that go out, but often Scottish Fire and Rescue go out to RTCs. So ask the money to be redirected, ask the money be redirected for life-saving services to Scottish Fire and Rescue. Highlight financial concerns that I have. We want to note the total cost of implementing the 20 mph speed limit is 7,591 500,000, which could require Environment Council to top up with 1,113,500 from its current resources. So that would be a significant investment if that needed to happen. I also ask you to note that should the current council allocation be used, that would be better used to identify or to reduce speeds on roads that use members, and as council officers have already identified, we have a table of roads that need speed measures put in. And also, finally, item number 5 of the motion reflects on the total costs of the speed limit, and it's a significant burden on taxpayer, working out at £579 per road. So that's the motion before members, which is not to implement the 20 mph speed limit. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, can I ask our officers, is the motion competent?
Yes.
Yes. And can you give copies of the motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
Online, in the email of the members online.
Just for clarity, Convener, is this an amendment now because you've already said your motion?
Well, I've already said I would be moving an motion at the end, so if Graham's okay with that as an amendment, unless he wants his to be the substantive motion.
I thought at first I was going to go for that, but I'm not really, there's reasons to take, so if a second amendment to come in, if I wait against the amendment, that's the challenge I have, so I don't want to confuse people about how we handle multiple motions and amendments, so I'm happy to.
Okay, right, I think that's why I was wanting to let the questions go first of all, Graham, to see where we're going on it, but such is life. What I'm going to do is now open up for questions for other elected members. Okay, I've got Ian first, and then I've got Chris. Ian.
Thanks, Convener. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of the original report that's been submitted by the councillors. I've noticed some paragraphs which I'll just go through, and it's written to find that the research that I've done and also my own personal experience, which has also been very much concerned in this line of business and road traffic safety and traffic in particular. So what I've noted here is reducing speed limits in town roads to 20 miles per hour brings clear safety benefits backed by strong evidence. Research shows that pedestrian hit by a vehicle at 30 miles an hour has around a 1 in 5 chance of being killed, but at 20 miles per hour, that risk drops dramatically to 1 in 40. That's a 7-fold increase in survival, a powerful argument for change. In areas where 20 miles an hour speed limits have been introduced, such as parts of the UK and Europe, studies have shown up to a 40% reduction in road casualties, including serious injuries and deaths. For example, in Bristol reported a 63% reduction in fatal injuries after adopting a 20 mile per hour zone across the city. These lower limits also make town roads more inviting for walking and cycling. Parents feel safer letting their children walk to school. Older people feel more confident crossing the roads, and more cyclists take to the streets, creating healthier and a more active community. Enforcement is part of the picture, but long-term change comes from education, awareness and community buy-in. Campaigns that explain the life-saving impact of 20 miles per hour, especially using real stories and local voices, often lead to better compliance than simply issuing fines. In short, reducing speed to 20 miles per hour in towns isn't just about slowing traffic, it's about saving lives, encouraging green travel and creating streets that put people first. So I propose to put that forward in backing of the councillor's work. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Chris.
Thank you. I think looking at it, I've started as just a question for council officers. That's what I've got some comments I'd like to make, but just a question. I've got in front of me and I note Graham said there's been a few variations of it, so I just want to just double check what the most up-to-date version of the plans. The person I've got in front of me was issued in 27th of June 2025. The officers confirm that's the most current version of the plans.
Okay.
It will be the version that's online on the council's website, and it was issued out with the papers.
Yep, that's fine. Just want to double check. Yeah. So, as a general, and I know these have been through some iterations, and nothing's ever going to be perfect. So I think that if I looked at this, I would say 95%. You know, it's there, even up to 99%. Yeah. There is obviously some slight inconsistencies, but things that are popped out. From our perspective, I think it's a nature of the practice we're trying to create arterial routes. But I know, for instance, in the Woodhall area in my ward, we have 30 mile per hour speed limits on Sunnyside, Pleasantside and Mansion Avenue. I think if you ever try to do 30 mile an hour on those ones, but you find it very difficult. These are areas that now currently no longer have housing, but we hope to in the future have housing. So, but I'll accept that sort of inconsistencies as an approach to actually minimise signing, etc., and things like that, because at the moment that's not going to have an impact. But I'm just putting it to be pin that in the future that might have to be revisited. Similarly, one thing I did bring up at the briefing, which I do really appreciate of officers' time to go through this and discuss it with like the members, was also mentioned about the Bloomsbury. Bloomsbury, yes, I think should be a major arterial route. Should be 30 mile per hour on its main over a large amount of the length of the road. But I did bring to attention the fact is that near to New York Primary School, it still remains at 30 mile per hour. It doesn't have a temporary restriction on that. I'm not going to say that that's something we should stop today or change or what have you today, but it's certainly something I would like to keep in officers' minds going forward. If there's an opportunity to look at a 20 mile per hour temporary speed limit there, it's something that certainly we've had representations in the past from parent groups and for local TARAs and things like that. So just to those two sort of points on the substance. With respect to just the amendments, it's fair to say that the SME group will be supporting the 20 mile per hour proposals. I think if I was to sit here today and say anything otherwise, I think the word hypocrite would come to mind. But no, so we have been campaigning for this for a long period of time. In the past, we've not been able to do this because we didn't have the funding. Now we have the funding. So I think it's important that we do take this next step. We have the funding, we have the principle sorted. Let's go in and do it. As I said before, I think on balance, it provides that balance between keeping traffic moving and improving safety, which is what we really need. With reference to Councillor Brooks' amendment, and thank you, Councillor Brooks, for providing that substantially to us on Friday, I do think it does demonstrate the danger of understanding the price of everything, but the value of nothing. The national strategy bring 20 mile per hour has not been promoted on a whim. There is value to it, which I'll put in cold hard statistics of pounds and pence. Accidents cost money. In the UK, reported traffic accidents are estimated to cost the UK economy £17.6 billion a year, with unreported accidents increasing this to £43 billion as an estimate. A small injury, a broken arm, leg, sprain, well, you look at that, the cost of that is £30,000 per injury. A serious injury, £290,000, and a death, unfortunate, but just keep it to the cold hard statistics, is £2.5 million. That's the cost to the UK economy. It will only take 20 small injuries prevented by this measure for it to pay for itself. I know you're worried about the cost of this. One death prevented would pay for itself 4 times over. Even one death becoming a serious injury would have a cost saving of £2.2 million. We are asked to do £600,000 against cold hard facts, and that's not to do with the value of somebody's life and emotional and family and everything else we know that goes along with it. This is pure hard economics. I also note Graham's suggestion in the amendment that we return this one-off fund to the Scottish Government for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. I do think that's pure politics, Graham, I have to say. On your behalf, I wonder whether you've guaranteed views of the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service on this proposal. I must admit, I'm sure, and you've mentioned yourself that to provide resources for them to actually attend accidents. I think that our colleagues in the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service would rather to prevent accidents than have equipment to cut people out from underneath cars. So why 20 mile per hour? As Councillor earlier has actually mentioned, you're about 8 times more likely to survive an impact at 20 mile per hour than 30 mile per hour. Hard facts again. It's just pure physiology. We're not designing to travel at 30 mile per hour as a human. So if we get in contact with somebody travelling that speed, we come off substantially worse. The reduced speed, as I also mentioned, also provides a chance for drivers to stop. At 40 mile per hour stopping distance of a car, despite all the improvements humans have improved, is still 36 metres. 23 metres at 30 mile per hour and 30 metres at 20 mile per hour. The difference between 40 mile per hour and 20 mile per hour would be equivalent to 5 car lengths. Now I'd rather a car stop 5 car lengths down the road than hit me. And even the reduction of 30 mile per hour, as it says, 85%, which has been shown in the borders temporary speed restrictions, result in a reduction of stopping distance of 4 metres based on an initial speed of 30 mile per hour. That's almost a car length and possibly the difference between life and death. So for all these reasons here, we will be supporting the proposals as a motion, as what outlined by Councillor Fogarty, to actually go forward these proposals for 20 mile per hour speed limits in residential areas in Inverglen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I'm going to bring Councillor Quinn in. Lynn?
Yeah, thanks. I've just got a question on the figures, if I can. I'm just trying to marry up page 3, which is 3.13, and the figures in there, totaling 591,000, with the actual finance figures in page 5 under 5.2. Yeah, so those two don't tie in. I know I've got an asterisk under the reoccurring costs, which states it will be within the existing budgets, but I would still expected to see figures in those columns. So can someone help me navigate the financials just so that it marries up with the two pages?
The difference between what's it made.
Yeah, through you, convener. Yeah, if you look at the table in 3.13, in the first heading there, phase 1 initial implementation, it is the 478,000. So that marries in with the table in the finance boxes. Bearing in mind that the commitment at the moment from Transport Scotland is a single financial year commitment because they can't commit to multi-year funding. So there is a recognition that the process will take longer than that. So whilst the temporary traffic regulation orders will be in place and the physical signs and lines will be in place, the actual feedback and the promotion of the permanent speed limiting orders will take you into the next financial year and even the year beyond that, depending on objections. So that's recognised by Transport Scotland and the communications that we've had with them. And in 3.16, there's a note there that they've acknowledged that funding requirement in future years and just that they're unable to confirm at the moment due to their Scottish budgets are agreed on an annual basis. But they fully intend that money will be made available, but they can't confirm it at the moment. Hope that answers the question. When?
Yeah, it does. So really there's a question mark then going forward beyond this year then where the money comes from, and I would assume then if the Scottish Government doesn't commit to that will fall to the council then to fund that. Is that what we're saying? If we don't get the commitment then those lines will go under the council's existing budgets?
There is that risk, yes. If the Transport Scotland and Scottish Government don't make that money available, then the council would have to look to fund that, and that's very much on the permanent speed limiting orders and the consultation element of the follow-up and the monitoring of the actual orders of temporary TTRs that are put in place. Yes, there is a risk that we would have to fund that, but as I say, all the email and discussions with Transport Scotland today, they indicate that money will be available. They can't just confirm that at the moment.
Thanks, Eddie.
Okay, so yeah, so we're only confirming today for year 1 then. Is that all we're making a decision on today, the 478? Because it looks from that paper as we aren't really committing to year 2, year 3, because we've not actually allocated the funding for it.
That's all that we can confirm in terms of the money that we made available at the moment. But yes, the intention is that should there be an issue in future years, we'd have to bring a report back to the committee to obviously highlight that. But the correspondence and engagement with TS today, they've indicated that money will be made available. We just can't formally commit because of the single year budgeting position.
Okay, thank you.
So I think in essence, Lynn, is that we would expect a paper back if the Scottish Government did not follow up with more money. That paper would come back to the council and that would give us a chance to discuss exactly where we would find the budget from or what else we would do with the budget. Would that be fair, Eddie? Yeah,
that's fair. Can you do that? Yeah.
Is that okay, Lynn?
Okay. Yeah, thanks. That clarifies it. Thanks.
I've got John next. John?
That's fine, thank you, convener. First of all, I would like to thank officers for the time and effort that they have put into producing this paper, and also some of the guidance that they've given us through section 3.5. That was the paper by the Transport Research Institute of the Edinburgh Napier University. I did have a quick glance at that, which is called Quantitative Evaluation of the 20-mile-per-hour trial in the Scottish borders. It does make interesting reading, and it does prove that traffic will reduce in speed. In there, summing up, it does mention a reduction of 3.1%. There is also the media toolkit that they mention under section 3.17 of the paper. Again, makes very, very good reading. There is a lot of specific guidance and supporting methodologies for quantifying and calculating the cost of different injury severities and collision scenarios. Now, they can be categorised into slight, severe and fatal. And whilst there's a lot of RTC road traffic collision data are available from both the Scottish and the UK governments. We can also see that from Police Scotland, who have tabulated the number and severity of these RTCs. Now, I would like to thank Councillor Curley, who has done quite a lot of background work there, giving you the costs, and if they are tallied up with the reduction in speed that we can see through Borders Council, yes, we are in the right road with this paper. And Inverclyde Council has also introduced a number of speed management interventions in the past, such as the 20 mile per hour zones around schools. There's areas where there has been lane narrowing, there's chicanes, refuge islands, curb extensions, speed repeater signs, and there's vehicle activation signs. These are all positive actions that have been taken by the council, but yes, we can go further and help not only to reduce the accident rates, but also the severity of those accidents. And that will also affect the likes of the Scottish Police, the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde. Yes, this paper, in my view, is very positive. I do, however, have a couple of concerns, and I'd like officers to take cognizance of them. One of them is the arterial Hilltop Blackfield Gleninver Road that links Gurt with the A78 Trunk Road. And on that road, there are junctions with the Arran View housing estate, and opposite that there is the local nature reserve at Cove Reservoir. We also have Inverclyde Royal Hospital in the Overflow Car Park. These are all on a straight, quite fast section of the road. And there's also the entrances to NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde Lackfield unit, which is at the brow of quite a steep hill. And lower down, there is the entrance to Orchard View. Now, opposite that, we have a number of houses with driveways, and the residents there have raised concerns about safety. And this is when they are attempting to either enter or leave their driveways. And they have reported a number of near misses, and this is due to allegedly speeding by inconsiderate drivers. So that has not gone unnoticed. That recently there was a severe accident at the junction of Lackfield and Fancy Farm Road. With the proposals to make Cumberland and Auchmead Road, which is also another arterial route from Gourock to the A78 Trunk Road, a 20 mile per hour zone, this could potentially divert some traffic onto the Lackfield Hilltop Gleninver Road route. And I noticed that on Cumberland Road in particular, it's probably the road with the most traffic cameras. There's 2 on it, and it does bring into question the nature of some of the drivers speeding on that road. Would that transfer to the alternative route? I don't have any statistics to prove that one way or the other. But whilst I am aware of the controlled traffic lights opposite the IRH, could I request that officers consider the concerns of the residents on Lackfield Road and Hilltop Road, and if necessary, could they put in place some measures to mitigate against the dangers allegedly posed by speeding motorists? The other one that I do have concern about as well is that the Lackfield Road, this is Lackfield Road Gourock as opposed to Lackfield Road Greenock, and that's where it goes by Gourock Cemetery. The reason that I have concerns there is that is a walking route to school. It's a major walking route from pupils from the Lackfield area, and they tend to walk along, and they will cross. Many will cross over at the lane at where the tenement properties are in Lackfield Road, and it takes you down to Matty Crescent. The road there is quite narrow. There's overhanging trees. There is a bad bend, and of which there has been numerous accidents, to the extent that the council has had to erect a barrier, and a crash barrier, and also a fence. So if officers could take cognizance of that and reassess those roads, should there be any form of traffic calming to try to mitigate against speeding. Thank you.
I'm going to let Eddie come in, but what I would say is we're discussing this paper, John, and it's very hard. I think every elected member can then use this as an
I'm
opportunity
aware of that.
to highlight things in their own area. I'm
Yeah.
sure Graham is going for an Esplanade meeting in a couple of weeks' time. I'm sure he could highlight it that.
Yeah.
So I would ask us to try and concentrate. I will let Eddie come in and that, but these
I
are
do agree with it in principle, but it's just
these are
two bits
queries that we can
concern.
all raise at various points in time, but I'll let Eddie come in.
For you, convener, I mean, officers get regular contact through elected members and directly from the members of the public. In some of these areas you mentioned, we've had contact on. We do have a list of areas that we are scheduled for assessment. This process also will give us that opportunity to reassess how successful these 20 million zones are. It gives you that opportunity to then go and do that assessment and monitor the actual speeds on the roads. So there is, as part of this process in itself, an opportunity to get more data on how these roads are performing. And if that means that they need to be considered for speed reduction measures, then that's something that will be captured in that process. And indeed, Transport Scotland have said there may actually be funding for follow-on speed reduction measures where that evidence base justifies that. So as part of this process, we'll certainly look at those areas if they prove to be problematic, and then I'm aware that they're probably on some of our lists already.
Okay, that's fine. That's lovely. Thank you.
Is that okay, John?
Yeah, it's just that feel that while I agree with everything in principle, it's just that those two areas I thought were highlight.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Do we have any other members want to ask any questions? If not, I'll move the recommendation, and that is the recommendation. Oh, sorry, two more. But I don't want to cut short. And Dennis as well. Dennis,
because after you moved, I was going to put that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was going to put an amendment forward.
Right, and I think that's the problem that Graham was saying. So we'll take the questions first of all, if that's okay, Dennis. So we'll go for the Provost first of all. Provost.
Yeah, thanks, convener. This is an interesting situation. We're all agreed that road safety is paramount to this. 20 mile an hour zones around schools, we have them. 20 mile an hour zones in the town centres, we have them already. Although I do not see in the assessment of where we've been with these 20 mile an hour speed limits within the town centres. Princes Street, Port Glasgow, Kemple Street and Borough. I would expect to have seen that in the report here today to show the difference, positive or negative, that it's made in them. Accident black spots locally, we've addressed them, and all sorts of different measures are put in place there. This is an initiative that's coming from central government, from the Scottish government, and therefore it's no surprise here that my friends in the SNP should be supporting this wholeheartedly. It has the fingerprints of the Green Party on it, of course. But there's a pressure on this council, pressure on our chief executive to implement this policy, to get it to a situation where it's workable. And that pressure on the chief executive then goes to lead to the council, and then bits and parts from our friends in the Labour Party here. But let me say that 3 years ago, when we all stood for election, not one of us, not one of our manifestos said anything about reducing the speed limit from 30 to 20. No, let's point out that was not in the manifesto, 30 to 20, because the people of Edinburgh would not have accepted that. And the people of Edinburgh are not going to accept this, because what are we doing? We're reducing the speed limits within our state and states. That's all. The main roads are staying the same, so it's the estates where we can drive at 20 miles an hour as it is. So the thing becomes, the principle's good, but in practice it's not necessary. And therefore, what Councillor Quint was saying about the finance, there's like so many things that come from the Scottish Government's finance somewhere down the line. And they say they're going to give us so much money towards it. But you look at these maps that are drawn out in the officer's time that has been taking place in putting that together, we are miles ahead of what
the Scottish Government will return to us. So where does that money come from? Do we take it from the old people or the young people or the disabled or whatever? It's got to come from somewhere. And when this goes out to the people of Inverclyde, they'll go like that. Is that council, is that the best we can do? And I want the people of Inverclyde to know that this is not a council decision, that this is coming from Scottish Government and John Swinney's chair, because that is the fact of the matter. It's not essential. We didn't need this, and it's going to be implemented. It's going to be implemented in some form, probably just where we are there. We can argue about this road should be in it, this road shouldn't be in it, but the thing will go forward. But I'm very aware it's going to cost this council a lot of money, and it's going to cost this council a lot of reputational damage as well, because the people will think this is not acceptable. Because, you know, the Scottish Government, they came out, I think it was parking and pavements, that was the last one. And what did our council do? We kicked it into the long grass because we knew it was the workable. We knew that out of the schemes and the estates, there's cars parked down all the pavements, and there's not a thing we could do. So what did? We ignored it. And I think we should be ignoring this as well. But I know it'll get passed. But that's my top as well. But it's imperative that the people of Inverclyde know exactly where this has come from. Thank you.
Thanks, Provost. Paul?
Yeah, thanks. Commissioner, not really any questions, more a comment. The Provost just said there, I think it is important to note this is a Scottish Government policy, and rightly so they are funding this first stage. I think it's incumbent on them to ensure that they fund the second stage and not expect local government to have to pick up the dime for their policies like you usually have to do. I think it's important to acknowledge as well that we've all said it before, there are going to be some roads this is going to apply, 20 mile is going to apply to, that you can never get above 20 mile an hour, and I think we can accept that is the case. But there's also some roads where you think you can get above 20, but you easily can, and I've seen that in my ward. I get regular complaints about Burns Road, and I welcome the inclusion of 20 mile an hour for that. And I think it's important to note as well that this isn't the final iteration. We're going to have to come back this month down the line to make these final. So there is opportunity at that later stage where we can look to change this. And finally, this will not work unless it's enforced. And the reality is the enforcement of this lands with Police Scotland, and Police Scotland have consistently said they don't have the resources to enforce it. And I think that's going to be the biggest problem with this, is the enforcement of it. So unless the Scottish Government step up to the plate for Police Scotland and provide them the resources just as much as they provide us the resources, then this is a policy that's going to fail. And it's unfortunate.
Okay, Paul. I'm going to bring Pam in. Pam?
Thank you, Convener. I didn't actually plan to speak this afternoon, but things have been said that I feel I have to respond to. This will be a decision of this council. This council will decide whether we have 20 mile per hour restrictions on many of our roads. This is our opportunity today to make that decision. This is not John Swinney deciding what's happening in Greenock. This is Inverclyde Council deciding what happened in Greenock and the rest of Inverclyde. And as for no party or no group very publicly supporting that is entirely wrong. And I'm sorry, but I have to say that the former, very sadly late and much missed member for Ward 2 campaigned on this issue, as far as I know, really all of his political career. So it is absolutely not the case that the SNP group have suddenly decided that this is a good idea. This has been a very personal and important issue for members of my party currently and previously. Now, for me, as I say, I didn't plan to speak, but for me, it's a no-brainer. This is about saving lives, reducing injuries, and the amendment and motion as intimated puts commerce before people and planet. And if we don't have a planet, we don't have people, and we certainly don't have any commerce. It's an absolute no-brainer. I will be voting to support the measures put forward in the report. I thank council officers for their hard work. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Now, just to make crystal, oh, sorry, Michael. Sorry, Michael, I didn't.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Thanks very much, and thanks for standing in for me today. I didn't dodge this one deliberately, honestly. No, I mean, I think like most of the elected members, I think you make decisions like this, and you've obviously got concerns as to the impact that they're going to have. I can take some reassurance from what Eddie says there, that we can try this, and it's temporary traffic regulation orders that we're talking about here, so they can be changed quite easily. So if we find that traffic's not moving the way we hoped it was going to move, or it's not having the desired effect that we were hoping it was going to have, then it can be amended going forward. So not a question, just a comment.
Thanks, Michael. I want to make sure everybody's had a chance. Now, with Graham's indulgence, what I was going to move, Graham, at bullet point number 4 on the agenda, all I was going to say is that we agree to progress the implementation of 20 miles an hour. So where it says provide direction, where the direction is we agree to do that. If that's okay. Now, I know Innes and Graham, so I'm going to ask Graham if it will kindly allow that to be the motion.
The challenge with that, convener, is that alternative motion is your amendments would go against me, and that would not be my wish, other than legal do it.
Graham, I am quite willing to I know if you're the motion allows you to come back in again. So I'm quite happy if you're wanting mine to be amendment, that I'll do that. Right, okay, so I'm quite happy to do that. So Graham's is going to be the motion. This is going to be the first amendment. And then I believe that Innes is now going to have a second amendment. Would that be correct, Innes? And I will now allow Innes to go for the second amendment.
Hey, thank you. To talk a little bit of history here, the speed limit for motor cars was raised from 14 mile an hour to 20 mile an hour in 1903, and stood until January 1931, when all speed limits for cars and motorcycles were abolished under the Road Traffic Act 1930. Lord Buckmaster's opinion was that the existing speed limit was removed because the existing speed limit was so universally disobeyed that its maintenance brought the law into contempt. The Road Traffic Act of 1934, created by Isaac Belisha, this is the man that gave us the Belisha beacons. Isaac Belisha, the Minister for Transport, introduced a speed limit of 30 mile an hour in built-up areas and came into effect in March 1935. And as you can work out, that was over 90 years ago. That's how long we've had the 30 mile an hour speed limit, 90 years. So lessons from Wales. The 20 mile an hour limit was introduced in Wales in September 23. Since then, the Transport for Wales air quality monitoring has shown that an increase in air pollution. The Welsh Government has also conceded that the 20 mile limit has had a detrimental effect on the Welsh economy. And a YouGov poll carried out in Wales shows that 72% of those polls wanted to see the 20 mile an hour limit in Wales rescinded. 72%. Unintended consequences of 20 mile an hour limits. There will be more vehicles on the roads at one time due to the increased travel times. The fewer 30 mile an hour arterial routes available, the heavier the congestion will be. Increased pollution affecting residents and driver health caused by vehicles being less efficient in lower gears and being on roads longer as travel times increase. Increased travel times impacting the number of patients that can be visited by a doctor, or the number of clients that can be attended to by the council care workers. Congestion negatively impacting the ability of emergency services to attend emergency situations and get patients to hospital quickly in order to save lives. Increased costs to our business economy, which could lead to job losses, and businesses failing, which in turn could lead to increases in alcoholism, depression and suicide. What we have to try and do, what are we trying to do? As most of you know, I've spent a lot of time in the last week working with officers, and I'd like to thank Stuart and Eddie for the time that they've given me. With the intent of having the 20 mile an hour scheme that will protect Everglades' fragile economy by keeping more of our main material routes at the standard 30 mile an hour, which has been established for the last 90 years, rather than revert to a speed limit of 20 mile an hour, which will, in the words of Lord Hogmaster, is likely to be so universally disobeyed that its maintenance could bring the law into contempt. The additional roads I would ask to remain at 30 mile an hour as follows. I have maps here, and I will read them out through the maps. So Cornwall Village have no issues, Kilmacolm no issues, Port Glasgow, Duffs Road, Overstone Avenue.
Can we go slow to make sure we've got a note of them?
I can get past this to officers once I've read it out. Is that okay?
Is that okay for you? Yeah, okay.
Overstone Avenue Road, Springhill Road, Bursbury, Glenhunbury Road, Glen Avenue and Lillybank Road. Also Woodhall, Duffs Road, Overstone Avenue, Regent Street, Roxburgh Street, Hasty Street, Nelson Street, Finner Street, Lyle Road, Grey Road. Also in Greenock, Gibson Road, Lansbury Street, Singler Street, Weir Street, Carwood Street, Regent Street and Roxburgh Street. Greenock South West, Broombury Drive, and Bureau actually. Broombury Drive, Springs Road, Barber Road, Victoria Road, Cumberland Road, Ockmead Road, Flatterton Road. Nimmerkirk, Langhouse Avenue, Langhouse Road, and Finnerhog Road. And once we the part of Gowing Road that's not already 20 mile an hour to remain at 30 mile an hour. So ultimately, it will be up to the council what we do, and it says here in the 20 mile an hour limit Scotland implication guide. Ultimately, we have for each road authority to determine which roads in their network should be subject to a 20 mile an hour speed limit to decide how best to give effect to this by way of orders made under the Traffic Regulation 1984 Act. That's members to consider my motion.
Okay, thanks, perhaps. Dennis. Okay, so what we have, we've got two amendments. So given the fact that Graham is the mover of the motion, Graham, I would ask you, do you want to have the final word in the movement of your motion?
Very briefly, thanks very much for the back end. Yeah, I think there's been a number of contributions that I wholeheartedly agree with. The reduction to 10 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, even 15 miles an hour would reduce the impact of pedestrian. But this, before today, will not reduce speed to these lights. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So now, if you bear with me, now what we've got is we've got two amendments. So I'll ask Peter. Peter, I'm amendment number 1. And Innes is amendment. Oh, sorry, if you went back in,
yeah, sorry, John, I just want to try and speak just before we,
okay.
Graham come in there. I just want to say one final thing, and I've already mentioned it, and I've listened to all the points, and they're all very relevant and pertinent. What I would just like to say is that the road patrol officers that are attending fatal road accidents, that the vast majority are on minor, what we'd call roads, residential scheme roads. Most of them are on these roads, of which we're talking about 20 miles an hour to 30. That's where they happen. That's where the fatalities are. So I'd like to add.
Okay. Thanks, I let Ian in there. Obviously, it's because I'm temporary chair in this. If it was education, he wouldn't have been allowed in. But given it's this, he's allowed in. Michael, you still get your hand up? Is that a legacy hand? Just want to make sure. I think it's legacy.
Sorry, Jim, that was a legacy hand.
Right, no problem. So we're quite clear. So what we've got is we've got two amendments, first of all. So I'm amendment number 1, and this is amendment number 2. So we'll vote on these first of all, and then that substantive amendment will go against Graham's motion. So we're clearing that, and we'll do it over to yourself.
Okay, so through you, convener. So members, your first vote then is Councillor Clougherty's amendment number 1 against Councillor Nelson's amendment number 2. So I'll read out the name of the member that put forward the amendment in question and ask you to indicate if you are for Councillor Clougherty's amendment or for Councillor Nelson's. So Councillor Armstrong.
Councillor Clougherty's amendment number 1.
Councillor Brooks. Amendment number 2. Councillor Cassidy.
Amendment number 1.
Councillor Clougherty.
Amendment number 1.
Councillor Crowther.
Amendment number 1.
Councillor Cowley.
Amendment number 1.
Councillor Hillier.
Amendment number 1.
And Councillor McCormick.
Amendment number 1.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Amendment number 2.
Councillor Nelson.
Amendment number 2.
And Councillor Quinn.
Amendment number 1.
I have 8 for Councillor Clougherty's amendment and I have 3 for Councillor Nelson's amendment. So Councillor Clougherty's amendment will carry.
So now we'll just carry on with the substantive motion, straightforward motion or amendment.
Okay, so we have Councillor Brooks' motion against Councillor Clougherty's amendment. So once again, members, I can ask you to confirm if you're voting for Councillor Brooks' motion or for Councillor Clougherty's amendment. Councillor Armstrong.
Amendment.
Councillor Brooks. Councillor Cassidy.
Amendment.
Councillor Clougherty.
Amendment.
Councillor Crowther.
Amendment.
Councillor Cowley.
Amendment.
Councillor Hillier.
Amendment.
Councillor McCormick.
Amendment.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Motion.
Councillor Nelson.
Motion.
Councillor Quinn.
Motion.
So I have 7 votes for Councillor Clougherty's amendment against 4 votes for the motion. So it is the amendment that carries. Point of order, Chair.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you very much. Standing order 66B allows the committee that delegated powers be not exercised and that decision be referred to determination of the full council. I moved item standing order 66B.
And I believe that is actually in order. So that will be a C paragraph at the full council meeting.
So the 2 points just need to clarify are presumably the members who voted for the original motion are also supporting that. We need 4 members to support it.
Oh yeah, okay.
And you again need to bring forward the proposal, which I presume would be what the initial motion was. Yeah, that's correct.
So how many members is it?
4.
4. And can I just get agreement that 4 members are happy for it to go to the full council? Councillor Provost, Councillor Quinn and Councillor Nelson. Okay.
I've not heard. We've got 3 members here. I'd like to.
Oh yeah, Councillor Quinn, are you happy with it to go to the full council?
Yeah, I'm happy with that, thanks.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for the way the debate was carried out as well. Can we move along to the next item, which is agenda item number 3. So, which is the waiting and loading time. Eddie, will you take us through that?
Yeah, the report covers the government consultation procedure for the traffic regulation order entitled the Inverclyde Council Various Roads, Europe Infrastructure Needs Bay, Waiting Restrictions, Variation number 8, order 2025, strips off the term, and there are 6 maintained objections. Recommendations simply seek committee's directions to whether matter are dealt with through the appointment of an independent reporter through a special meeting of this committee.
I would move that we do it through a special reporter. Is there any difference in that? No. I agree. Special meeting for the reporter. Oh, sorry. Special. Yes. My apologies. Can we agree it's, Ian, you want to come in? Are you?
Sorry.
No. Can we agree it's a special meeting of the committee? Thank you. Agreed. And my apologies. Councillor Quinn.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just had a quick question. I know the road traffic order has got a number of areas in it. Was it one, you know, and it said there were 6 objections? I'm just trying to clarify, was it only one area within that road traffic order, or are there a number of areas within that we were objecting to?
I understand it was only one of the areas that was the subject of objections.
Okay, so we'll only be looking at one potential change rather than the whole order, yeah.
Well, it need to be considered by the committee in terms of what the actual objections were, decision used.
Yeah, I was just clarifying if it was the whole order or it was just one specific street, but that's fine if it's only one specific area. That's fine, thanks.
Okay. Thanks for that. Can I move the next order of business, which is on the private papers? And can I move the appropriate resolution to exclude press?
Just need to so that